Have you ever stopped to think about the immense power that the Holy Cross holds? That wooden beam where Christ shed every last drop of his blood, that altar of redemption where heaven and earth met, that sign that terrifies demons and opens the gates of eternity for those who embrace it with faith. But tell me, when the feast of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross arrives, do you live it as a celebration from heaven, or does it pass unnoticed like just another day on the calendar? Have you noticed that many Christians let this sacred day slip by without truly understanding its transformative power? Did you know there are special practices deeply recommended by saints like Saint Padre Pio of Pietrelcina that transform this day into a current of graces for your soul, your family, and even for your departed loved ones? Dear brothers and sisters, the feast of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross is not an ordinary day. It is the solemn proclamation of Christ's victory over sin and death. Today, I want to reveal to you 3 things you must do on the day of the Holy Cross, 3 simple yet powerful acts. And the third one, almost no one remembers it, but it is a hidden treasure that Father Pio recommended with fervor, because it moves God's merciful heart in a particular way. These aren't just pious suggestions or empty religious customs. These are spiritual weapons that the saints discovered through prayer and revelation. Practices that can unleash heaven's protection over your life in ways you never imagined. The third practice especially holds such power that when Father Pio spoke about it, tears would fill his eyes because he knew the incredible mercy it releases. Think about this for a moment. Every year, millions of Catholics around the world let September 14th pass by like any other day. They might attend Mass, say a quick prayer, maybe kiss their crucifix, and then continue with their routine. But what if I told you that the saints lived this day differently? What if I told you that Father Pio had specific instructions for this feast that could change everything about how you experience God's grace? The cross is not merely a symbol we wear around our necks or hang on our walls. It's the very throne of Christ's kingship, the altar where the greatest sacrifice in history was offered, the key that unlocked paradise for humanity. When you understand what the saints understood about this day, when you do what they did, something shifts in the spiritual realm. Protection increases, graces multiply, heaven seems closer. If these teachings touch your heart, write Holy Cross, protect me in the comments. Your gesture helps this message reach more people who need to discover these forgotten treasures of our faith. I promise you this. By the end of this message, you will never again let the feast of the Holy Cross pass unnoticed. You will have in your hands 3 keys of grace that the saints used, 3 practices that can transform not just one day, but your entire spiritual life. The third practice especially, the one almost everyone forgets, carries such weight in heaven that angels themselves rejoice when they see a soul performing it with love. So stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you comes from the depths of Catholic tradition, from the lived experience of the saints, and from the special revelations that Father Pio received about this most sacred day. Your soul is about to receive weapons of light that will serve you not just on September 14th, but throughout your entire journey toward eternity. The Feast of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross is not simply a liturgical memory. It is the solemn proclamation of Christ's victory over sin and death. Ever since St. Helena, mother of Emperor Constantine, found the holy wood in Jerusalem, Christians understood that this sign was not an ornament, but a banner of salvation. The saints kissed it with tears, carried it on their chests, raised it in processions like someone showing the key to heaven. When St. Helena discovered the true cross in the year 326, something extraordinary happened. The wood that had been buried and forgotten suddenly became the most precious relic in all of Christianity. But this wasn't just an archaeological discovery. It was heaven's way of reminding the world that the cross would never be just a memory of suffering, but an eternal fountain of hope and victory. St. John Chrysostom said that the cross is more radiant than the sun, because in it Christ conquered death. These weren't just beautiful words from a great preacher. They were the testimony of a man who saw with spiritual eyes what many miss with their physical sight. The cross doesn't just represent what happened 2,000 years ago. It represents what continues to happen every single day in the lives of those who embrace it with faith. And Father Pio, marked in his own flesh by the stigmata of the Passion, knew that embracing the cross was the most direct path to the heart of Jesus. For 50 years, those sacred wounds bled on his hands and feet, making him a living reminder that the cross is not just something we contemplate, but something we must live. Every day, Father Pio experienced in his own body what Christ suffered on Calvary. And from that experience came his profound understanding of how to honor the Holy Cross. Think about the moment when Helena's workers broke through the earth and found that sacred wood. Imagine the reverence, the awe, the recognition that they were touching the very instrument of humanity's redemption. From that day forward, Christians began to understand that certain dates carry special spiritual weight, that heaven itself marks some days as extraordinary opportunities for grace. The early Christians didn't celebrate this feast casually. They prepared for it with fasting and prayer, understanding that when the Church Universal focuses its attention on the cross, something powerful happens in the spiritual realm. Demons flee, graces multiply. The veil between heaven and earth becomes thinner. This is why the saints approach this day with such reverence and why they developed specific practices to honor it properly. Father Pio often spoke about how the cross was his greatest teacher. While other spiritual directors pointed their disciples to books or lengthy theological treatises, Padre Pio would simply direct their gaze to the crucifix. There, he would say, is the university where you will learn everything you need to know about love, about sacrifice, about victory over evil. But here's what most people don't realize. The saints didn't just honor the cross in general terms. They had specific practices, particular prayers, concrete actions that they performed especially on this feast day. These weren't random devotions they invented. These were practices that came through prayer, through revelation, through their deep communion with Christ crucified. The cross has always been the great sign of contradiction. To the world, it represents failure and defeat. To those with faith, it represents the greatest victory in history. To demons, it represents their ultimate downfall. To souls in need of grace, it represents an inexhaustible fountain of mercy. This is why honoring it properly, especially on its feast day, releases such power. What I'm about to share with you comes from this rich tradition of the saints, from their lived experience of the cross's power, and especially from the insights that Father Pio gained through his mystical participation in Christ's Passion. These three practices aren't just pious suggestions. They are spiritual technologies that the saints discovered and tested in their own lives, finding them to be extraordinarily effective channels of divine grace. The first thing you must do on the day of the Holy Cross is contemplate. Stop before a crucifix, whether in your home, in your parish, or even at your workplace, and dedicate deep time to looking at Christ nailed there. Don't do it lightly. Don't see it as just another image. Ask him, Lord, for whom did you suffer these wounds? What do you want to tell me today with your silence on the cross? This isn't the kind of quick glance we usually give to religious images as we pass by. This is what the mystics call contemplative gazing, the kind of looking that allows Christ's love to penetrate the deepest corners of your heart. When you truly contemplate the crucified one, you're not just observing a historical event. You're participating in the eternal moment when divine love conquered human sin. Saint Faustina confessed that she found the greatest spiritual light in those moments of contemplation, when she let the gaze of crucified Jesus penetrate her soul. She would spend hours before the cross, and in those sacred encounters, she received some of the most profound revelations about God's mercy that the Church has ever known. Her famous prayer, "Jesus, I trust in you," was born from those deep moments of contemplating Christ crucified. But here's what makes this contemplation so powerful on the Feast of the Holy Cross specifically. On this day, the entire Catholic Church around the world is focusing its spiritual attention on the same reality. Millions of souls are lifting their eyes to the cross. This creates what the saints called a spiritual symphony, where individual prayers join together to create something far more powerful than the sum of their parts. Padre Pio taught his spiritual children a specific way to contemplate the cross. He would tell them to begin by looking at Christ's hands, pierced by the nails that should have pierced our own hands because of our sins. Then to move their gaze to his feet, crushed by the weight that should have fallen on us. Then to his side, opened by the lance to show us the depths of his sacred heart. Finally, to his face, serene even in agony, showing us that perfect love casts out all fear. In that sincere contemplation, tears of repentance often spring forth, and right there the heart is purified. Don't be afraid of those tears. Padre Pio said they were pearls of grace that wash the soul cleaner than any earthly water. When you cry before the cross, you're participating in the same sorrow that Mary felt at the foot of Calvary, and that participation unites you to her in a very special way. On this day, offer to the Lord your suffering, your weariness, your hidden pains, uniting them to his passion. This is the secret that transformed ordinary people into saints. They learned to see their daily crosses not as meaningless burdens, but as opportunities to share in Christ's redemptive work. Your headache, united to his crown of thorns, becomes a prayer. Your financial worries, united to his poverty on the cross, become an offering. Your family problems, united to his concern for his mother even while dying, become acts of love. Believe me, there is no more powerful prayer than that of the soul that unites itself to Christ on Calvary. When you contemplate the crucified one with this depth, something shifts in the spiritual realm. The angels draw closer. The saints take notice. Even the souls in purgatory feel relief because your prayer, united to Christ's sacrifice, sends waves of mercy throughout the entire mystical body. This contemplation doesn't require special skills or theological degrees. It requires only love and the willingness to be changed by what you see. Padre Pio often said that the cross is the greatest book God has given us to read, and every time you contemplate it with sincere love, you're reading another page of that infinite book of divine mercy. Don't rush this contemplation. In our fast-paced world, we've forgotten the power of spiritual lingering, of letting our souls rest in the presence of the sacred. Give yourself at least 15 minutes of uninterrupted time before the cross on this feast day. Turn off your phone, quiet your mind, let your heart speak to the heart that was pierced for you. The second thing you must do is kiss the cross with devotion. It might seem like a small gesture, almost childlike, but the saints teach us that in that kiss lies an immense act of love. Padre Pio repeated that the cross is the greatest book God has given us to read, and kissing it is like saying, "Lord, I accept your word, I accept your will, I accept to walk with you." This isn't just any kiss. This is the kiss of recognition, the kiss of surrender, the kiss of love that responds to love. When you press your lips to the wood or metal of the crucifix, you're doing what the early martyrs did before facing the lions, what medieval pilgrims did after walking hundreds of miles to reach Jerusalem, what countless saints did in their final moments before entering eternity. Many faithful are accustomed to kissing the crucifix when they wake up and when they go to bed. But on the day of the Holy Cross, that gesture has a special echo in heaven. Why? Because on this day, When the universal church celebrates the triumph of the cross, every act of reverence toward it carries amplified power. It's like tuning your personal devotion to the frequency of the entire Catholic world's prayer. Father Pio had a particular way of teaching this devotion. He would hold his own crucifix, the one that never left his side, and he would kiss it with such tenderness that those who witnessed it said it was like watching a mother kiss her sleeping child. But there was also strength in that kiss, the strength of someone who knew that this sign held power over every evil force in the universe. Do it on your knees with reverence, and when you kiss it, say, "Jesus, in your cross I trust, in your cross I rest, in your cross I find my victory." These aren't just beautiful words, they're declarations of spiritual warfare. Every time you proclaim your trust in the cross, every demonic influence that might be affecting your life receives a powerful blow. The devil hates the sign of the cross and trembles before a soul that loves it. Think about what that kiss represents. With your lips, the same lips that sometimes speak words of impatience, complaint, or anger, you're choosing to touch the instrument of perfect love. With that simple gesture, you're saying that you want your words, your breath, your very life to be transformed by contact with Christ's sacrifice. This kiss has protective power because it's an act of faith made visible. When the early Christians were dragged before the Roman authorities, many of them would kiss their hidden crosses before speaking. They knew that this gesture connected them to a power greater than any earthly threat. The same spiritual principle applies today in our modern struggles against discouragement, temptation, and fear. St. Francis of Assisi used to spend hours kissing the wounds of crucifixes, and from those moments of intimacy with the crucified Lord came his own stigmata. St. Teresa of Avila would kiss her crucifix before every important decision, saying it helped her align her will with God's. These weren't superstitious practices. These were expressions of a love so deep that it needed physical expression. But here's something beautiful that Father Pio taught. When you kiss the cross on its feast day, you're not just expressing your own love, you're also accepting Christ's kiss of peace for your soul. The cross becomes a meeting place where human love and divine love encounter each other. In that moment, you're both giving and receiving a kiss of eternal significance. Don't underestimate the power of this simple gesture. In a world that has forgotten reverence, in a culture that mocks physical expressions of faith, your kiss becomes a radical act of countercultural love. It declares that you belong to Christ, that you recognize his kingship, that you choose his way over the world's way. Make this kiss deliberate and unhurried. Let it be a moment of real communication between your heart and the heart that was pierced for you. And watch how this simple practice begins to transform not just your feast day, but your entire relationship with the cross that you carry in your daily life. Speaking of the power of prayer and devotion to strengthen our spiritual lives, many people, just like you, have been seeking to understand better their relationship with God and deepen their faith. That's exactly why we created something special that connects perfectly with what we're discussing today about the Holy Cross. The Rosary was Father Pio's greatest weapon, and today it can be yours too. Our ebook, The Power of the Rosary with Father Pio, Miracles, Protection and Divine Graces, is a spiritual treasure that will help you learn to pray the Rosary with more devotion and depth. Discover the miracles and testimonies of those who have already experienced its power, and understand Father Pio's most impactful teachings and phrases about prayer. This material includes a 30-day prayer guide with daily intentions to strengthen your faith, plus special prayers for protection, healing, and liberation. It's designed to be a practical companion in your spiritual journey, helping you connect the power of the cross that we're discussing today with the daily practice of the Rosary that Father Pio so deeply cherished. Don't let this opportunity pass to strengthen your spiritual life with material that has already helped thousands of people grow closer to God. To download it, just click on the link pinned in the comments. Now let me reveal to you the third practice, the one that almost no one remembers, but that Father Pio recommended with special urgency. And we arrive at the third thing, the one that almost no one remembers, and that Father Pio recommended with urgency. On September 14th, the day of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross, offer a Holy Mass, or at least participate in one, for the souls in purgatory. Why? Because those souls who are already saved suffer in the purifying fire waiting to enter into full glory, and the cross is precisely the key that opens the gates of heaven for them. Jesus himself revealed to St. Gertrude that each Mass offered with devotion for the deceased liberates a torrent of souls. This isn't just pious tradition or hopeful thinking. This is divine revelation given to one of the Church's greatest mystics. When Christ spoke these words to St. Gertrude, he was revealing one of heaven's most powerful secrets. The Mass, which makes present the sacrifice of Calvary, has the power to unlock the chains that bind souls in their purification. Father Pio said that helping the souls in purgatory is the greatest charity we can do, and on the day when we celebrate the triumph of the cross, that help becomes a river of mercy. Think about this profound truth. Those souls cannot help themselves. They depend entirely on our prayers, our sacrifices, our masses offered for their liberation. They are like prisoners who can only be freed by someone on the outside who holds the key. Many Christians pray on this day for their family, for their work, for their problems, and that's very good, but they forget the deceased. And yet, what greater gift can we give them than to apply to them the fruit of Christ's cross, which is the sacrifice of the Mass? This is the practice that Father Pio called the forgotten charity, because in our focus on earthly concerns, we often overlook those who most desperately need our spiritual assistance. Here's what makes this practice so powerful on the Feast of the Holy Cross specifically. The cross represents Christ's total victory over death, and when we offer the Mass on this day for the souls in purgatory, we're applying that victory directly to their situation. We're saying, in effect, Jesus, by the power of your cross, which we celebrate today, please release these souls from their suffering and bring them into your glory. Imagine for a moment the joy of those souls when they receive the news in purgatory. Today, someone offered the Holy Cross for you. Their chains break, their flames are eased, and many ascend to heaven with gratitude. In that instant, those newly glorified brothers and sisters will intercede for you before the throne of God. It's an exchange of love. You help them get out. They help you stay firm on the path of salvation. Father Pio experienced this reality in mystical visions. He would see souls being released from purgatory like butterflies emerging from cocoons, transformed and beautiful, rising toward the light of God's presence. And he noticed that the Masses offered on special feast days, particularly the Feast of the Holy Cross, had extraordinary power to effect these liberations. This practice creates what theologians call the communion of saints in its most beautiful form. The Church on earth, that's us. The Church in purgatory, the souls being purified, and the Church in heaven, the saints and angels, all unite in one great symphony of grace. When you offer Mass for the souls in purgatory on this feast day, you're conducting this symphony, bringing harmony between the three states of the Church. But here's the part that moves the heart most deeply. Father Pio taught that the souls in purgatory, once released, become some of our most powerful intercessors in heaven. They never forget the charity that freed them. They spend their eternity grateful for the Mass that broke their chains. So when you help them today, you're not just performing an act of mercy, you're gaining eternal friends who will pray for you until the end of time. The beauty of this practice is that it costs you nothing except the intention of your heart, yet it accomplishes something that no earthly wealth could achieve. It participates in the liberation of souls and the expansion of heaven's population. Father Pio used to say, "Help the souls in purgatory, make them feel that they are not forgotten." On the day of the Holy Cross, this help becomes a torrent of mercy that flows from Calvary directly to their place of purification. Before we continue, I want to share something from my heart with you. This channel exists because we believe that the teachings of Father Pio and the treasures of our Catholic faith need to reach every corner of the world. We're not just creating content, we're building a spiritual family, a community of souls united by love for Christ and devotion to his saints. Your support means everything to this mission. When you hit that like button, you're telling us that these teachings matter to you. When you share this video, you're becoming a missionary of Father Pio's wisdom. And when you become a member of our channel, you're joining hands with us in spreading the light of authentic Catholic spirituality to hearts that are hungry for truth. We need you in this mission. Together, we can ensure that the forgotten practices of the saints, the powerful devotions that transformed ordinary people into heroes of faith, continue to live and flourish in our modern world. Please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear about the power of the Holy Cross, and consider becoming a member of our growing spiritual family. The day of the Holy Cross, then, cannot pass you by unnoticed. This day, contemplate deeply the crucified one, kiss him with love, and participate in Mass offering it for the deceased. 3 simple acts, 3 keys of grace, 3 paths of protection and mercy. Don't let the enemy distract you or make you think it's a distant feast. On this day, heaven opens in a particular way to pour out graces upon those who honor the cross. These aren't just religious exercises we perform out of habit. These are spiritual technologies that the saints discovered and tested in the laboratory of their own souls. When you contemplate Christ crucified with sincere love, when you kiss the cross with reverence, when you offer Mass for the souls in purgatory, you're participating in the same current of grace that transformed ordinary men and women into saints. Father Pio lived these practices every day, but he understood that certain feast days carry special weight in heaven. The day of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross is one of those days when the spiritual atmosphere becomes charged with possibility, when graces that might normally take months to receive can flow in abundance to prepared hearts. Remember the vision that St. Andrew the Apostle had when he saw his own cross approaching. "O precious cross, so long desired, with joy and confidence I come to you." This is the attitude that should fill our hearts on September 14th. Not fear of sacrifice, but joy at the opportunity to unite ourselves more closely to the heart of our salvation. The cross has always been the great sign of contradiction. To the world, it represents failure and defeat. To those with faith, it represents the greatest victory in history. To demons, it represents their ultimate downfall. To souls in need of grace, it represents an inexhaustible fountain of mercy. When you honor it properly, especially on its feast day, you're aligning yourself with heaven's perspective rather than earth's confusion. Think about what happens when millions of Catholics around the world perform these 3 practices on the same day. Think about the symphony of prayer rising to heaven, the multitude of souls being released from purgatory, the countless acts of love directed toward the crucified Christ. You have the opportunity to be part of something magnificent, something that echoes through eternity. This day of the Holy Cross can be a before and after in your spiritual life, if you live it with faith, with love, and with that small spark of sacrifice that the saints teach us. Don't let it pass. Embrace the cross, and the cross will embrace you with the eternal promise of heaven. I invite you in the comments, write your intention for this day of the Holy Cross. Tell us who you want to entrust in the Mass, what cross you carry in your life and wish to unite to Christ's, and share this message with those you love. Let us all know that in the cross is victory, peace, and hope. Your participation in these comments creates a beautiful network of prayer intentions that rises like incense before the throne of God. When thousands of souls unite their intentions on the Feast of the Cross, heaven takes notice. Angels gather these prayers like precious flowers and present them to Christ, who sees in them the fruit of his sacrifice on Calvary. The saints are waiting to see what you will do with this knowledge. Padre Pio, from his place in glory, is interceding for everyone who takes these teachings seriously and puts them into practice. The souls in purgatory are hoping that you will remember them in your Mass on September 14th. And Christ himself, from his throne of glory, is ready to pour out blessings upon those who honor his cross with sincere devotion. Don't be among those who let this feast pass like any other day. Be among those who understand that certain moments in the liturgical year are charged with special grace, that heaven marks some days as extraordinary opportunities for spiritual advancement. Let September 14th be the day when your relationship with the cross deepens forever, when you discover for yourself the power that transformed martyrs into victors and ordinary believers into saints.